Hello guys and welcome to my kitchen. Today we're going to be making one of my favourite plates to cook at private dinners, and those are jackfruit baos. The baos are made from wheat flour, they're light and soft and delicious, and the jackfruit is sticky, spicy and full of umami. This plate gets me excited just speaking about it. As you know, I don't cook with meat, so to get that meaty texture we're going to be using jackfruit. Jackfruit is a fruit from India and it's very good at mimicking the texture of pulled pork. I'm going to give you some top tips on how to make jackfruit super tasty. There's a couple of things that you can do to ensure that you get the best result. Are you ready? So we're using white flour. We're not using strong bread flour because we don't want it to be a hard dough. We want it to be a soft dough, we want it to be malleable, so we're using soft white flour. So we whack our yeast into warm water along with the white sugar, which is going to help to activate the yeast. Give it a little stir and also add in the olive oil, 150 grams of plain flour and half a teaspoon of salt. So we can see some bubbles inside, so that's a good sign. So now we're going to go in with the yeast water. Yeast hiding in the bottom. So at this stage I'm going to go in with my hands and begin to knead it and to squeeze it together. That most of the flour is incorporated, I'm going to tip it out onto the bench and scrape out the crumbs from the bowl and begin to knead it on the bench. And you want to begin to knead in this kind of motion, 90 degrees, and then you're using your weight to knead it using the work surface, and it becomes a motion. The purpose of this obviously is to incorporate all the ingredients together, but also we want to activate the gluten, because when the gluten is activated and nice and strong, that's going to trap the air inside, giving us a lovely, nice, light dough. I've been going at this for about 5 minutes. I'm going to leave it for another 5 minutes, rest the dough, and then I'm going to come back and give it another hard knead, and then it should be ready to leave it for bulk fermentation. So it's been resting for 5 minutes. It's nice and soft. We're going to go again with a vigorous kneading motion. After 2 minutes of kneading, you can tell that the dough is firming up. There's some resistance from the dough. So now it's done. I'm going to whack it in this bowl, cover it with a tiny bit of oil, just to stop it from drying out on top. Whack this thing on top, which is a reusable silicone mold. Boom, and that's it. So we're going to leave this somewhere to ferment for around an hour. I'm using tin jackfruit. You should be able to find this in most Asian stores, or in some organic stores they should have it as well. Now what we're going to do, we're going to start to flake the jackfruit into pieces. This is such an important step because we're taking water out of the jackfruit, which means that the water isn't going to dilute the flavour of the jackfruit later on. So one of the most important things when making the baos is the teriyaki sauce. The teriyaki sauce is going to be full with the tamari, the maple syrup, and this is going to give it a nice sweet umami flavour. I've taken out the water of the jackfruit, and now we want to get it nice and caramelized. So we're going to put a little bit of oil into the pan. So we're going to whack in the jackfruit, get it nice and caramelized, and then add in the spices. 3 minutes later, we'll whack in the teriyaki sauce and cook it down until it's nice and sticky. This shouldn't take longer than 2 or 3 minutes. Well, an hour has passed and we're going to take a little look at how the bao buns are looking. As you can see, it's very airy and it's grown around double in size. So that's perfect. The dough is ready, it's nice and puffy. Now we're going to take it out onto the work surface and we're going to make it into balls. This is a good sign that fermentation is done. You can see tiny air bubbles on the bottom of the dough. From here, we're going to chop it into smaller portions. Roll this into little rolls. And then chop it into 1, 2. Before we roll out the balls, we're going to prepare the bamboo steamer. Nice piece of this. Cut it in half. Place it into the steamer. Now we've got the balls that have been rolled out. I've just lined my steamer. I'm going to roll out the balls into baos. A pot of water here, which is going to start to boil in a minute. We're going to stack these on top of each other. So we've got the buns in here, nice and ready, looking beautiful. We're going to pop the lid on. We're going to drop them in. Be careful if you've got a deep pan like this. And then as soon as the water starts to come up to boil, so I'm going to turn it off. I'm going to leave these for the final rise, which is going to take around 15 minutes. So the baos have been resting for 10 minutes. We're going to bring up the water to the boil, and when it starts to boil, we're going to cook them for 10 minutes. The buns are done. About the toppings. We're going to be using my homemade beetroot sauerkraut to give that nice acidic flavor, which is going to cut through the fat in the jackfruit. And secondly, my favorite chili sauce, which is called Salsa Macha. You can check out the description to get the recipe for this Salsa Macha. And then to give it a little bit of green and some freshness, we're going to be using a little bit of fresh parsley. The most important part of the whole process to see if it's all been worth it. This is probably the tastiest jackfruit bao I've ever cooked in my life. Not gonna lie. Thank you so much for watching. I hope I've proved that you guys can make this exact bao. If you enjoyed this video, like and subscribe to my channel. And I will see you for the next one.